All right, everyone, we start off today talking about CNN's frenetic and bizarre reaction to Joe Rogan and really the non-controversy, I think, surrounding him. Rogan is, well, he's edgy sometimes. A lot of his show really gravitates around smoking weed more than anything else. So the idea that he's had guests on that have said edgy racial shit, according to CNN, and this isn't meant to be hyperbole, which is the astonishing lack of self-awareness part, I think, on their behalf. I guess they're comparing it to January 6th. Now, the comparison actually is apt in one way, but this isn't the gist of the article. This certainly isn't CNN's opinion, which is that January 6th also was largely a nothing burger. It was a fiery but mostly peaceful protest. The only person killed that day was a protester. There was no insurrection attempt. That never happened. And then you have a hyperbolic fear porn reaction to it that's being used partially for political reasons, partially by groups in the legacy media and corporations to try to censor and stifle smaller competitors. That's a natural spin-off of virtually any moral panic. Although I don't know that the reaction to January 6th quite rises to that level. They're trying to spin it that way, but I think the average person sees through it. It's like the public, for the first time in a long time, kind of understands and gets it. So yeah, the comparison, for reasons entirely different from what CNN wants you to think, it makes perfect sense. You've got fake outrage, a push for censorship. You've got an origination of that fear porn that's basically who cares. Joe Rogan makes a radio show, effectively a podcast. If people don't like the content, then they don't tune in. You see some people are voting with their feet and canceling their Spotify accounts. Who cares? It's called the free market of ideas, something that some people appreciate. If they really enjoy the internet, I would hope they understand that's why the internet is enjoyable to them generally. And other people are bootlickers and lemmings. First and foremost, though, before I go into this a little bit further, keep in mind down below, if you're watching this video on YouTube, there will be a pinned comment with links to other video hosting sites that I use. I make exclusive material every day on all of those sites that doesn't get onto YouTube. YouTube's algorithms at this point not only directly abuse creators like me, but they abuse you even more if you make too much content. In fact, if on Sunday I lose subscribers because I also have a live stream and YouTube counts that as an upload, they don't like that either. But here's the thing. When I looked at this at first, of course, it's bewilderment. It's like, well, what the fuck are you talking about? You're talking about a series of at least minor criminal activities at the Capitol on January 6th. There may not have been an insurrection or anything like that, but there was crime. It did devolve into a riot. At least some of the people were rioting. Others were literally just taking selfies with a lectern. It's not the most violent crime in the world. So at first you look at it and you're like, CNN's full of it. And that's true. I'm not excusing CNN and claiming that they're not full of bullshit. But again, if you peel back that superficial layer, the comparison does kind of make sense. January 6th was, again, largely a nothing burger. Most of the people that were there weren't organized. It was entirely peaceful for them. You did have Ashley Babbitt getting killed. Other than that, you have some minor injuries and assaults. You have trespass, you have vandalism, but it wasn't an attempt to overthrow the U.S. government as it was cast off by others. It also led to a now year-long commission of entirely partisan comport trying to use it as an excuse to fuck around with the political system. The Democrats have used this to try to sell people the pig in a poke election bills. Those failed. To try to fortify things, we've got to fortify our democracy to make sure that the one ideology system is upheld against populists, libertarians, and arguably even against leftoids. Well, I don't want them in charge. I do want them to be able to express themselves and speak freely. It's too bad most of them are incoherent and possess no human language skills and prefer to throw bottles of their own shit. But, until they actually throw the shit, they're just talking, I don't care. It's the same with Rogan. Joe Rogan did nothing wrong. The fact that he or someone on his show used the N-word, and so it's basically an extension of the insurrection. It's about white male rage. It's about Joe Rogan being a far-right extremist, anti-government fanatic. Well, being anti-government, if you're in the United States, is kind of the norm. trust in government is bullshit, generally. The government should be on a much shorter leash. Its privileges need to be revoked somewhat. Certainly in the midterms, there's a push for state house control that goes beyond whatever, lame-ass composition of Congress happens to exist. Hint, hint, at least some of the new Republicans that come in on the red wave, they'll be like Dan Crenshaw. They'll walk the walk and talk the talk, but only some of the time. And it'll be hilarious. It shows us the need to punish the lame establishment. Politicians, legacy media, well, they seem to be punishing themselves. I'm wondering if CNN does this at this point just for clickbait. But the comparison makes sense. Joe Rogan, if you don't like him, don't watch his show. It's the same as with a YouTuber. So people will complain about your content. Oh my God, you're spreading disinfo. You're incorrect for some reason. Sometimes objectively, most of the time it's a subjective judgment. You cooked the wrong food. You think pineapple doesn't go on pizza. Well, I am angry at you. I showed up in this video that I blatantly would have disagreed with. Let me bitch and complain and wonder why this happened to me. The Karens and jackbooters and bootlickers of society engage in that sort of nonsensical behavior, and they do the same with Rogan. If you don't like him, you can cancel your Spotify subscription. You have that right, believe it or not. You can keep Spotify and just not tune into Joe Rogan. It'd be like saying, well, Howard Stern did blackface in the 80s. I'm canceling my Sirius subscription. Well, there is more there. Although that's sort of the boomer satellite on-demand service at this point. Spotify a little bit more advanced. I don't like this YouTuber, ergo I don't watch them, I don't subscribe to them. And I downvote their videos when I see them inevitably in my recommended feed. By the way, that happens constantly. Half of the recommended videos I see, Fox and CNN. Yeah, wonderful. It's exactly what I want to see in order to brainwash myself and be dumber. They're correct, I guess. Their point is salient when you go beyond that superficial layer. The problem, of course, is CNN is telling you something different. They're saying, well, Joe Rogan used the N-word, years ago, or technically in the context of quoting someone. But this doesn't matter, according to CNN, because, see, he's a competitor of theirs. It's people like Joe Rogan siphoning away the audience of the old wave legacy media by and large anyway. So naturally, they're going to throw a bitch fit about him if he does anything because they really just want him censored. And if it weren't this, it would be he promotes drug use. He promotes medical disinformation. They have a big thing about that all the time. He supports the wrong politician. Here's the top 10 reasons why this shouldn't be allowed on Spotify or something. And they've held the line, despite not being a free speech geared company. Spotify has decided, partially in its own self-interest, hint, hint, it's a good reaction, to keep Joe Rogan on there. That's to their credit. The alternative would have destroyed their company. Neil Young continues to make music here, and half a dozen other artists that used to be relevant. Too bad we just lost tens of millions of our users. Guarantee they haven't lost nearly that many because Neil Young decided to throw a fit. The point stands. I suppose CNN makes a proper point, but they're incapable of analyzing and interpreting it and presenting it properly. The comparison, if you look at January 6th as being largely peaceful, yeah, that's basically like Joe Rogan. Your problem with him is a quote that he made from another person years ago, and this is one particular moment in time in one particular episode. How many fucking episodes has he made? And many of them. He's been on there for quite some time, and not just, of course, post-Spotify deal. But they will laser focus in on that one thing, present it to the public as a reason we need transformative change, so we need to do something about these independent commentators. That would be the next logical step. If Rogan were banned, they would do the purge thing like they've done a dozen times before in the last half decade, and they're not doing it because they support democracy or they just want racial justice. They want to keep people safe from disinformation. That's the excuse. What they really want is fewer competitors on fewer platforms so they can make more moolah. CNN could definitely use a bigger audience because they've lost like 80% of it. So again, that's the reason they're doing this. Right title, right construing of material, all the wrong analysis, all the wrong reasons behind it. That's about all. Peace out.